Hey everyone, welcome back. So glad you could join us for another deep dive. And this time we're going to get into some fascinating stuff about student motivation. You sent us some really interesting research and commentary on this topic.
Yeah, definitely a lot to unpack there.
For sure. And we're really going to try to get to the heart of what truly makes students want to learn,
Mhm.
what drives that achievement. And to help us do that, we're going to be focusing primarily on this great commentary you shared with us from a special issue of Educational Psychology Review.
Yeah. That's a really rich resource.
Definitely. It pulls together so many different articles and ideas on student motivation. I mean, it's like a one-stop shop for the latest thinking in the field.
Totally. And one of the key themes that emerges, which I think is so crucial for anyone involved in education, is the role of sociocultural contexts and relationships.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Like, we often think about motivation as this internal thing, right? What's going on inside the student's head. But this commentary really emphasizes that there's this whole other side to the story, this other half, as they call it, which is all about the student's social world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like you can't fully understand what motivates a student unless you also understand their relationships, their environment, their culture.
Makes you think, right? Like, have you ever really stopped to consider how much a student's relationships at school, with their teachers, with their friends, even their family, and then the broader cultural environment they're in, how much all of that shapes their fundamental desire to learn? It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
Yeah, it is. And the commentary, it does a great job of breaking down some of the complexity of motivation research. It even addresses, kind of right off the bat, how there are so many different ideas and concepts floating around about motivation. It can be a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, there's self-efficacy, there's different types of achievement goals, there's the whole intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation debate. It's a lot.
It is. And it's not like any one of these things is the magic bullet, right?
Yeah. Right.
Like, oh, if we just increase a student's self-efficacy, then they'll be motivated. It's
Right.
way more nuanced than that.
It's all interconnected.
Exactly.
And I think what the commentary does so well is it highlights the need to understand how all these different individual factors, all these different ideas about motivation, how they interact with the social and contextual elements of a student's life.
Yeah, it's not enough to just focus on the individual student in isolation. You got to look at the whole ecosystem they're embedded in.
Totally. And the special issue of Educational Psychology Review that this commentary is part of, it's really trying to bridge all these different perspectives, right?
Yeah.
Like to show how individual motivation and social context, how those two things are constantly influencing each other.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dig into one of the core arguments of the commentary, which is that interpersonal relationships are absolutely fundamental to student motivation. Like, not just a nice bonus, but actually essential.
Yeah, and this really aligns with some very basic human needs, right? I mean, think about that research by Baumeister and Leary back in '95 on the need to belong.
Oh, yeah?
They argued that this drive for social connection, it's a fundamental human motivation, just like the need for food or shelter.
Yeah.
And even earlier, Bowlby's work on attachment theory back in '69, he highlighted the crucial importance of secure relationships for healthy development, right?
Right.
So all of this, it plays out very clearly in the school context. If a student feels isolated, if they feel disconnected, that's a huge barrier to their motivation.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, right? We all want to feel like we belong. We all want to feel connected. And if we don't have that, it's hard to focus on anything else, let alone something as challenging as learning.
Right. And so the commentary breaks down these different types of relationships that are crucial for students. First and foremost, there's the teacher-student relationship.
Okay.
I mean, we all know intuitively that a great teacher can make a huge difference. But there's actually a lot of solid research to back that up. For example, the commentary cites this study from 2001 by Hamre and Pianta. They found the positive early teacher-child relationships had a lasting impact on student achievement all the way through middle school.
Wow.
Yeah, those early connections seem to create this foundation of support and security that helps students thrive academically. And, Pianta has continued to do a lot of work in this area, really focusing on practical strategies that teachers can use to build these positive relationships with their students.
So it's not just about luck, right? Like getting a good teacher. It's
Yeah.
about intentional practices that can foster those connections.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got teacher-student relationships. What about peers? Because let's face it, for a lot of students, peer relationships are everything.
Yeah, they're huge, and the research definitely supports that.
Okay.
The commentary actually cites a 2021 meta-analysis by Wenzel and colleagues, and they found a significant link between peer acceptance and academic achievement.
So basically, if a student feels accepted by their peers, they're more likely to do well academically.
Yeah, and it makes sense, right? If you're constantly worried about social standing, if you're afraid of being judged or rejected, it's hard to focus on learning.
Totally. Like that fear of judgment, it can be a huge demotivator.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about teachers, we've talked about peers. What about parents?
Yeah, so the commentary has a really interesting perspective on parental involvement.
Okay.
It's not as simple as, like, the more involved parents are, the better.
Right.
Actually, they highlight this 2007 study by Pomerantz and colleagues, and they found that overly intrusive or controlling parenting can actually backfire. It can undermine a student's sense of autonomy, which is really important for intrinsic motivation.
Yeah, like if you feel like you're not in control of your own learning, why would you be motivated to do it?
Right. So it's not just about the quantity of parental involvement, it's about the quality.
Okay, the quality.
And a key concept here is parental autonomy support. This is research from 2008 by Guai and Schnell. It basically means that parents encourage their child's independence, they support their choices, and they help them develop their own sense of self-direction.
So it's about empowering them, right? Not just dictating what they should do.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is later research by Guai and others in 2013, they found that the quality and even the number of autonomy-supportive relationships a student has, whether it's with teachers, parents, or peers, it all has this cumulative positive effect on their motivation.
So it's like building a network of support
Yeah.
where the student feels like they have people who believe in them, who encourage their independence, and who respect their choices. Okay, so we've got these three key relationships: teachers, peers, and parents. And the commentary also talks about this other really important aspect, which is the sense of belonging at school.
Yeah, feeling like you fit in.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Like that seems non-negotiable, right?
Totally. And it's particularly important for students from marginalized groups.
Yeah.
The commentary cites research from 2022 by Graham and colleagues, and they found that for students of color, for example, feeling a genuine sense of belonging is crucial for their motivation and their academic success.
So if you feel like an outsider, it's going to be that much harder to engage with school.
Right.
Yeah. And this connects with this other concept that the commentary brings up, which I found really interesting, the idea of we-ness.
Yeah. So we-ness comes from research by Gray and colleagues also in 2022, and it really emphasizes the importance of communalism, especially for Black students.
Okay.
It's about fostering a sense of collective identity, mutual support, and shared responsibility for learning. It shifts the focus from individual achievement to collective progress.
So it's less about I need to succeed and more about we need to succeed together.
Exactly.
I like that. And speaking of fostering positive relationships, the commentary also mentions this 2022 framework by Robinson for motivating teacher-student relationships. I don't think they go into a ton of detail, but it sounds interesting.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like it's focused on specific strategies that teachers can use to create those strong, motivating connections with their students.
Like what?
Well, probably things like building trust, showing empathy, demonstrating respect, creating a classroom environment where students feel safe and valued.
So really intentional relationship building.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, it's interesting to think about how all these different relationships with teachers, with peers, they're not happening in isolation.
Right. They're all intertwined.
And the commentary actually points to research from 2022 by Kilday and Ryan, which looks at the intersection between the peer ecology of the classroom and teacher practices.
So basically how the dynamics between students and how the teacher manages those dynamics, how those two things interact to influence student motivation.
It's complex.
Yeah, it's a whole web of social influences.
And I think just to kind of bring it all together, the commentary cites this 2011 meta-analysis by Rorda and colleagues, which found strong evidence that positive teacher-student relationships are linked to both higher student engagement and achievement.
Yeah, which is what we all want, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then there's also research from 2011 by Spilt and others, which reminds us that these positive relationships are beneficial not just for students, but also for teachers.
Yeah, for their well-being, their job satisfaction, their effectiveness.
It's a two-way street.
Totally. When teachers feel connected to their students, when they feel like they're making a difference, it energizes them.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the impact of individual relationships, but now let's zoom out a bit and talk about how the broader school and cultural contexts can sustain motivation.
Right, because it's not just about those one-on-one connections.
No, absolutely not. The commentary really emphasizes the importance of the broader environment. Things like the overall school climate, the sense of safety and belonging across the whole school, the cultural norms that are prevalent.
Yet all of that creates the backdrop against which these individual relationships are playing out.
And one thing the commentary specifically highlights is the importance of culturally relevant teaching and learning environments.
Hmm.
Like this ties back to that idea of belonging, but on a much larger scale.
Right. When students see their own cultures, their own experiences, their own perspectives reflected in the curriculum, in the teaching methods, in the school environment as a whole, it tells them that they matter. It
Yeah.
tells them that their identities are valued, that their stories are important, that their ways of learning are valid. And that can be incredibly motivating.
It makes learning feel relevant.
Exactly.
And the commentary also, though I think fairly briefly, it touches on the impact of school segregation and racial academic achievement gaps.
Yeah. And, it's important to acknowledge that these systemic issues, regardless of where you stand on the political spectrum, they create very different learning contexts for different groups of students.
Mm.
And the 2022 research by Reardon and colleagues, it really delves into this complex issue.
Yeah.
Like factors like resource allocation, the quality of facilities, the overall climate within segregated schools, all of that can impact student motivation and opportunity.
And the commentary kind of sums up this idea, this complexity, with this phrase, complex social ecologies.
Yeah, they're drawing on 2022 research by Skinner and colleagues.
Okay.
And it's this idea that a student's motivation is shaped by this whole interconnected web of influences. It's not just one or two things, it's everything.
It's everything.
Yeah.
So what can we do about it?
Well, I think the takeaway here is that we need to be really intentional about creating learning environments that foster a sense of community and support for all students.
Yeah.
And that means not just focusing on individual classrooms, but looking at the whole school, the whole system.
Okay, so we've looked at the challenges of integrating different ideas about motivation. We've explored the profound influence of interpersonal relationships, and we've talked about the impact of these broader contexts. The commentary also points to some exciting new directions for future research, like where do we go from here?
Well, one key area is the ongoing effort to develop more integrated and comprehensive theories of motivation.
Okay.
Because as we talked about at the beginning, the field can feel a bit fragmented, right?
Yeah.
So researchers are working to create these more unified frameworks that can better account for the complex interplay between individual and social factors.
So trying to bring all these different pieces together.
Exactly. And another area that's really ripe for exploration is the dynamic interplay between individual motivation and the social world.
Okay.
Like, how do those two things constantly shape each other? How do changes in a student's social environment impact their internal motivation and vice versa?
Yeah, like it's not a static thing, right? It's constantly evolving.
Right. And I think the commentary also makes this really important point about the need for research that's actually useful for practitioners.
Oh, yeah, that's key.
Like, motivation research shouldn't just stay in academic journals. It needs to be translated into practical strategies that teachers, counselors, administrators can use in their work with students.
Yeah, totally. And the commentary highlights this study from 2022 by Falardeau and colleagues. It looked at student motivation during the pandemic in Quebec.
Mhm.
And it's a great example of research that's timely, that's context-specific, and that can actually inform practice.
Yeah, because understanding how a major societal disruption impacts motivation, that can give us really valuable insights into how to support students through challenging times.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other thing the commentary mentions, which I thought was really interesting, is this concept of goal complexes.
Oh, yeah. That's from 2022 research by Liam and Senko.
Okay.
And it's a way of understanding how students manage and coordinate multiple goals at the same time. Because they're not just pursuing one academic goal in isolation.
Right.
They have social goals, personal goals, family goals. And all of these different goals interact and influence each other.
So it's a more nuanced way of looking at how students prioritize and pursue their aspirations.
Exactly.
Okay, well, we have covered a lot of ground here, but I think if we had to distill it down to, like, the most crucial takeaways about student motivation, what would you say those are?
Well, I think the biggest one is that student motivation is not just about the individual student.
It's okay.
It's profoundly intertwined with their relationships and the broader context in which they're learning.
So it's this interplay of the individual and the environment.
Yeah. And that means that fostering positive relationships and creating supportive and inclusive learning environments, those aren't just nice things to do, they're actually essential for motivating students.
They're key ingredients.
Totally. And I think understanding this other half of the story, understanding the social and cultural influences on motivation, that can be incredibly valuable for anyone who's involved in education.
Yeah, I mean, whether you're a teacher, a parent, a policymaker, anyone who wants to see students succeed.
Absolutely.
All right, well, thank you to you, our listener, for taking this deep dive with us into the complex world of student motivation. And as we leave you to ponder all of this, here's a final thought. Given all these insights about the power of relationships and context, what's one aspect of a student's social environment or their network of relationships that you think has the most untapped potential to influence their motivation to learn? Maybe something you've seen firsthand, maybe something sparked by the research we discussed. It's definitely a question worth thinking about, and maybe even doing some more exploring on your own. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next time.
Bye.